Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm giving you guys a spoiler-free review for the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die. In No Time to Die, James Bond is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica after leaving active service. However, his peace is short-lived as his old CIA friend, Felix Leiter, shows up and asks for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond down the trail of a mysterious villain who's armed with dangerous new technology. So, I'm not the biggest fan of the James Bond movies overall. I haven't seen every single one. I've seen most of the Daniel Craig ones, and overall, I'm just not the biggest fan of them. You know, like I prefer Mission Impossible. All the stunts, more of the stunts are practical Mission Impossible, but this movie was different, okay? This movie might just be one of my favorite spy movies of all time, and here's why. So, first of all, the pacing in this movie was almost perfect. This is a 3-hour epic farewell to Daniel Craig's James Bond, and it's exactly that. The pacing, there's so many big moments. One like bad thing about the James Bond movies, in my opinion, is they start off with a massive set piece, and then the rest of the movie just doesn't really live up to that. One example of this is Skyfall. Skyfall starts off with an absolutely insane action set piece in the beginning, but the rest of the movie doesn't really live up to it. And that's what I was scared about going into this movie. I was like, while I was watching the beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, this is not going to be good. The first scene, the first car chase scene is absolutely insane. But I was kind of scared because I was like, dang, nothing's really going to top this. But I forgot this is a 3-hour epic. There were massive set pieces within every single hour of the movie, basically. I would say there were at least 2 big set pieces within each hour, which is 6 total, which is absolutely insane. I also think this works really, really well with the story overall. I think the story in this movie was great because as time went on, it got a little bit more complex and a little more complex. Obviously, twists, every spy movie has its twists here and there, but this movie specifically, the story really intrigued me and it kept me intrigued throughout. It kept me engaged the whole time is what I'm trying to say, and it didn't feel like it ever let me off, like within the entirety of the 3 hours. Obviously, one thing that a lot of people complained about in this movie was the villain, but I think the threats overall made up for the slightly lackluster villain. I love the way that they set up the villain in the very beginning. We don't really get much of him for that middle hour and a half, but towards the end we get him again, and everything is really set up around the villain because the villain's more of a leader of a bunch of people, and so it works in that way. And also at the end of the movie, obviously the leader or the villain and James Bond have parallels, and it's really prominent. The villain is basically trying to convince James Bond that they're the same people. Obviously that's a classic villain trope, right? But I don't know, this one just really works because there's so many similar things within their stories, like actually similar people that they care about and that actually surround them. So it's not like the villain's making a stretch to just make the story collide more. It's actually true. They're actually super similar. And also the villain, his whole plan is world threatening. It's a world level threat. It's like an Avengers level threat, low key. But I do think that it works in this situation just because it's not really connected mostly to Bond when it comes to I want to stop the villain, but it's mostly I want to save this person, I guess, without spoiling anything. It's not necessarily, I mean, obviously it's the saving the world part, but there's also underlying things is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's what makes it a little bit more compelling to me. One thing I cannot go without mentioning in this review is the action. From the chases, the car chases, number one, were absolutely phenomenal in this movie. The hand-to-hand combat, the way that they transfer from like gun combat, which I'll talk about later, to hand-to-hand combat, back and forth, and then within chase sequences, the gun usage is also great. Overall, I just think the action of this movie is just next level. I would still put a few Mission Impossible movies over it. And also towards the end of the movie, it didn't feel like it was just super oversaturated with action, and it felt like the action and dialogue were super well paced out. It didn't feel like just a super action-packed, punches flying everywhere, bullets going everywhere, action-packed finale, but it also felt heartfelt and dialogue like driven, and I really liked that. The acting in this movie was also absolutely phenomenal. We all know Daniel Craig, he crushes it every time. Rami Malek was the villain. The villain wasn't utilized as much as I wanted to, but the way that they used the villain overall, I still really liked. Léa Seydoux, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the love interest for James Bond. She was absolutely phenomenal. Ana de Armas was only in the movie for a little bit. She was in the movie for way less than I thought she would be. They basically advertised her as a main side character, but she was only in the movie for like 5 to 10 minutes total, but she was still great. Lashana Lynch was also in this movie playing basically the replacement for James Bond, the new 007. Jeffrey Wright is in this movie. He did awesome, and Ralph Fiennes was also in this movie. They're all awesome, and I love the acting overall. Going back to the comedy really quick, I want to talk about that 007 banter, because the new 007 and then James Bond, that banter was so great. It was so much fun. I had my entire theater laughing, and overall the comedy was really good. It wasn't like cheesy, it wasn't stupid. It was good comedy, and it actually made me laugh a couple times. On top of that, the score was absolutely perfect. The score in the final act of this movie, it's done by Hans Zimmer, so you already know it's gonna be a banger, but Hans Zimmer delivers here. It is so good. The way that the score matches the punches and the fighting and the gunshots and just everything, it's so perfect, and it really elevates the movie to another level. But the final thing I want to talk about is Daniel Craig. I think that this was the perfect ending for Daniel Craig's James Bond. Number one, it was just so satisfying. Overall, it was just, it felt so well deserved for the character, not throughout all of the movies, but just throughout this movie alone. The character arc that we got for James Bond in this movie, it just felt so well capped off at the end, and it was really sad, but it was worth it, and it all felt really conclusive at the end, and that's why I really liked it. Overall, I'm gonna have to give No Time to Die a solid 8.5 out of 10. It might go up to a 9 one day if I rewatch it, because this movie is absolutely phenomenal. From the action to the storytelling to the pacing, it's overall just an awesome movie, and you should definitely check it out. But yeah, guys, that's it for this review for No Time to Die. Let me know how hype you guys are for No Time to Die in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.